Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited to introduce a very special guest to Purpose Today, Stacia Thompson. Stacia is the CEO of House Apex LLC and the founder of Reclaim. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay right where you are for another power-packed episode of Purpose Today. On today's show, we're going to specifically talk about strategic power moves and how you can master purposeful pivots during transitional times. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these sponsor messages. Purpose Today is brought to you by Purpose Today Global and the Purpose Professionals community. If you're a professional who has the desire to pivot to align with your purpose, if you desire to network with other like-minded professionals, or if you want to ensure that your business is aligned with your purpose, connect with the Purpose Professionals community. The link to the Purpose Professionals community is available for you in the chat. If you're a professional who knows that you're at a point in your career where it's time for you to pivot and you need to make a professional pivot, but you don't know how, send us an email at admin@purposetoday.com. Welcome back to Purpose Today. Again, I'm very excited to have our very special guest, Stacia Thompson. As I mentioned earlier, Stacia is the CEO of House Apex LLC, and she's the founder of Reclaim. Stacia is an Air Force veteran, a retiring federal leader, and someone who can help you with your coaching journey through Reclaim. This coaching service is available to assist women veterans to rediscover their identities beyond their military service. Stacia was previously at the Pentagon as a civilian from September 2017 until June 2023. She also served as a civilian at Headquarters, U.S. Air Force and U.S. Space Force in Washington, D.C. Stacia was previously Chief of Force Development, Integration, and Outreach, Program Manager, Civilian Senior Executive Performance Management, Resource Management Specialist as an Air Force Career Broadener, an Action Officer, and Stacia also supported the Force Development Integration Division and Air Force Talent Management Innovation Cell via selection into the highly competitive Air Force Career Broadening Program. She was a team chief of Civilian Force Renewal and Development as the Department of the Air Force civilian. Stacia is scheduled to retire from the Department of Treasury IRS in December. Stacia, welcome to Purpose Today.
Thank you so much. What an honor and a pleasure to be here. This is my first podcast, so I'm very excited to be here and speak with you all today.
Thank you so much, Stacia. It's just such a pleasure to have you here. And I know that there's such an abundance of wisdom and expertise that you're going to share with our guests today. And I know I gave guests, a background about you and your experiences, but can you just share a little bit more about yourself with our viewers, please?
Yes, of course. So as you were mentioning, I am a veteran, and I guess it's a little known fact that I am the oldest of three siblings. I have quite an age difference between them. I'm 11 years older than my brother, and I have a sister. And then I have another sister that I am 17 years older. And out of the ones that my dad, who actually served in the military as well, Air Force, I'm the only one who joined and
Wow.
will continue to, serve as a civil servant. So my dad looks at me and like, hey, I followed his footsteps. And so I have that passion for service, but I also am a mother. I had a micro preemie. I was remembering that the other day because I saw something online about micro preemies, and she's 23 years old now. So I am also here for parents that go through NICU. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So definitely. Part of my past and part of my coaching journey that I could also provide help and guide women veterans through that process as well. And something that I found as I decided to retire is, even though I'm highly allergic to grass, weeds, and trees, I have found a passion for gardening. I was out there in the heat and the sun, just pulling weeds and planting bulbs and really enjoying that peaceful just time. My mind was so quiet during that time. And I found a great joy. And the algorithm found me on social media because of all the searches that I was doing as I was learning. So that's a little bit about me. So I'm ready and here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Stacia, for that introduction. And I'm sure there are a lot of viewers who are watching today who can, identify with a lot of the things that you shared today. So thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for, your service, continued even beyond your Air Force service. So I want to just get right into it. And I want to talk about purpose, because I believe purpose is important in our lives. So what role do you believe purpose has in our lives and in our profession?
So, like you, I do find that purpose is a very important part of our lives. For me, it's the anchor. It gives us direction, it guides us, it helps us maneuver and make good or possibly bad decisions at the time. But however, because of that anchor and that root that is planted, eventually it comes out for the greater good of you, because you have that purpose that you're driving towards, and you just hone in on that, and you focus in on that, and you're allowed to make mistakes, right? And so when the purpose fades, or like I said, you deviate or you make those mistakes, the confidence and maybe some of your discernment, you're like, wait a minute, am I making a good decision? But as long as you stay rooted on that original purpose that you had, you're headed towards the right direction, because you're going to have it right here in your heart and know that you are going in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacia, for that. And I think that's very insightful, right? We have the opportunity to grow. We have the opportunity to pivot, but keeping purpose as the foundation in what we're doing. Now, have you always had that perspective, or did you have a pivotal moment in life that really unveiled the importance of purpose for you?
So that's a great question. As I've gotten older and I think back on, when I was younger and making some of the decisions, I think it was just kind of rooted in there, because I didn't even know I had a heart for service, to be honest with you. I didn't know I had, the desire to lead, or that I was actually pretty good at it, until someone who saw me said, "Hey, I think you should be a supervisor," or "I think you should do this." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Right. And so, if you just, like I said, because it is an anchor and something is grounded and rooted in you, and you keep driving towards that, eventually it's going to come out. Eventually you're going to find out what that purpose is. It's going to be revealed to you. Because I mean, I never would have thought I'd be on the path that I am on. Especially, I joined the Air Force when I was 22 years old. That was the last thing on my mind to do. My parents were stationed in Okinawa, Japan. I moved over there at the age of 21. I was going to Wichita State in Wichita, Kansas, and moved over there, went to school, and I'm like, okay, coming back home with parents, but I joined and it was life-changing. And it was exactly what I needed to really reveal that purpose.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You said something, and I want to go back to it because I think it's key. When you were talking about leadership and really not knowing that leadership was on the inside of you and not really having the desire to take on leadership roles. Now, I believe within every one of us is a leader, right? And so my question for you is, you went forward with the recommendation that someone gave you. At what point did you finally have the confidence to match what you were doing? Because it seems like you just jumped all in. But at what point did you acquire the confidence?
For me, I would say that it was based on timing. Because I was working in HR, I had learned a lot. I had become a senior staffer, doing civilian HR on an Air Force base at the Personnel Center. And I started answering questions and working with my teammates and, solving problems together, and then really absorbing what I was learning and keeping that information. And when I shared that information, others would come and get that information. And so they found that I was easy to work with. And I became a lead when I got promoted. And once that supervisor saw, okay, she's doing really well as a lead. Okay, let's go supervisor. And I'm like, what? But because those teammates had found me as a competent lead, I was easily, maneuvered over into the supervisory role and just fell right into it. And they respect me because I had already shown them respect. And I do hear what you're saying about leadership, and everyone's a leader. You don't have to have that official title to be a leader. You can be an unofficial leader. People can look up to you to be a leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And, you don't have to have a title to be a leader. Everybody has leadership on the inside of them. And I think, it's up to us to ensure that we're cultivating ourselves, we're growing, we're developing, we're, finding mentors, we're finding coaches, we're reading books, we're, doing formal and informal leadership and development and education programs, to help us to continue to grow. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I also want to just share with anybody who's watching, even when you may not have the confidence go for it, right? You can develop the confidence along the way. I think it's important that you develop the confidence along the way and, continue to move forward. So I want to talk a little bit about your experience because I know that you're retiring in December and you have a long, as we talked about, history of public service, both in the military and as a civilian. And so you made a decision to retire on the Voluntary Early Retirement Authority, and you're going to be retiring very soon at the end of this month. So what led you to that decision? As you're approaching your December 31st retirement, share with the audience.
Around the corner, right? So I would say over the past few years, I have really leaned on the fact that I wanted to help women veterans. I know for me, when I separated from the Air Force, it was right when 9/11 happened. I was actually on terminal leave. And for those who are not military, that's that interim period where you've out-processed the base, but you're still kind of on the rolls, but you may be long gone in another city and state, which is exactly where I was. And everything had shut down. I couldn't find a job. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I was not prepared. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have any friends in the local area. I had, I met people who eventually became really good friends that I still communicate with today. But that initial shock of all of a sudden you're out of there, you're out of that microcosm of the base, that special camaraderie that you have with your unit, right? That base that, you drive on base and that there's a gym, there's a commissary, anywhere you go, right? Even when you move. And so I had, served, and I had, became a civilian eventually. And as a civilian, I worked with the Department of Air Force for like almost 19 years. So it was kind of like I had that, interim period where I was out there, flailing around. But then I came back to like a DOD or DOW setting, and I just found my groove. But as a woman veteran, and as I worked with people who separated from the military or retired, I saw them kind of like, oh, still trying to either wear their rank and tell me what to do. And I'm like, hey, you're not in the military anymore. You're in a targeted position and you're not at the the highest grade of that target. Let's calm down a little bit. And it was time. So combined with that military service and working across 3 agencies, it's going to be like almost 3 decades of service in some capacity, uniform, out of uniform. And I recognize that, here's my chance, because I already knew what I wanted to do. I had seen it, but here's my chance to do it early. And so my next season was like, hey, let's go ahead and jump and get yourself together and get ready to take this next step to start helping these women veterans. I even, help women who are still active duty, who are transitioning out, whether they're in the Guard or the reserves, just as long as they need me, as long as they need some help, I want to help them understand that they don't have to do it alone. And here it is, 4 years early, I'm able to do that. And this opportunity to retire early allows me to be able to do that, to help them, with their clarity and confidence, and help them with that sense of belonging 4 years early.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And congratulations again on your retirement. You're welcome. And thank you again for your service. So I know that we can see how excited you are about your retirement. What would you say, if you could say the single thing that excites you most about this new chapter of your life and career? What is it that excites you the most?
Dare I say freedom? That's freedom to do whatever I want. Whatever I want. If I want to travel to do a speaking engagement, if I want to travel just for some self-care, if I want to, meet someone, in another state, or go to a retirement ceremony, there's no requesting to take leave. I have the power to make the decisions to do what I want to do. And like I said, almost 3 decades, that's a long time, to be where I'm requesting to take leave and things like that. And here's now where I can make these decisions and still provide service and still help someone and still help myself. That's what excites me. And my next step aligns with my purpose. My purpose is service. I can't shake it. I really can't shake it. My mother and I, we talk about that. And she was like, you can't help yourself. And I'm like, I can't, and I think anyone who knows me, they know it, they see it. And I have people who worked for me 10, 12 years ago that are still in my life, and they're excited to tell me that they've been promoted or to talk through career decisions. And I'm here for them. And that's what excites me, is that freedom to, if they want me to come visit and help them, I'm able to do that at this point in time in my life. And so that's what excites me.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now, I know I've had the distinct pleasure of serving alongside of you at Department of Treasury, IRS. And so I know your commitment to service. I've seen it, firsthand. And I know there are people who are, who are watching right now who might be a little on the fence, So for professionals who are at a crossroads in their career and they're thinking about pivoting, or they're thinking about retiring, or they're thinking about launching a new business, what advice would you give them, and what considerations would you tell them to keep in mind that would help to encourage them to do what they're dreaming about?
So first, I would say start with clarity. Right? Going back to that purpose, understanding their why. Why do you want to retire early? Or, is it the right time? Like I said, it was early. I had planned on saving up more money and things like that. But I do feel like because I still communicate with active duty, women and, veterans, the same plight that I had when I separated from the military in 2001. These women are still going through this. I did some disabled veteran organization, they did a study, and women are still saying the same thing. So I had my clarity. So I would say that they would need to know their unique why before they chase, oh, I want to get out. And also, if they need to save, do they have the capacity to make it on just retirement? Will they need to get a second job? Those are true decisions. So during this time, I've made sure that I've paid bills off, and made sure that, this wasn't a decision that I took lightly. Like I said, I had already been working towards that. It happened early. Hadn't saved as much as I wanted to, but I wanted to make sure that I at least had a pathway and a direct reason, why I was doing it, and a business that aligned with my purpose and my why. So definitely don't bail without having that clarity and having your ducks in a row first, to make sure that you're able to take care of yourself and your family before making that decision to really just step out there and leave.
Thank you, Stacia. And I think clarity is key, right? To be able to make purposeful moves, intentional moves, you need the clarity, right? Planning is key. And even for people who want to pivot, sometimes you need to lean on people who have the expertise, people who have successfully done what you desire to do and have excelled in what you desire to do, to help you, to save you some time and energy. Now, you talked about having a business, and I want us to pivot into that, right? I want us to talk about House Apex LLC first, because I know that, you're providing services for clients that can help them. So can you tell us a little bit more about the services that you provide through House Apex LLC, and if there's someone who is interested in learning more, how they would get started?
Yes. So House Apex LLC, House is my maiden name, the name that I had when I joined the military. And it also pays homage to my grandmother, who is no longer with us. So like I said, clarity and the why, right? And so it provides coaching and consulting to women veterans that are navigating that identity loss that we spoke of earlier, and the cultural reentry of that civilian world, and the emotional transition after military service. Because it's a big deal to take that uniform off before you could walk into a room and not even say a word, and people knew who, your rank. They knew whether or not they were supposed to stand up when you walk in a room. They knew whether or not, if you're walking down the street, they were supposed to salute, or are you going to get a salute. And so, like I said, after separating from the Air Force, when I entered that civilian world, I was unprepared, and I experienced that identity loss. And through my years of working in the Department of the Air Force, I realized how unprepared the women were. And so when I decided to start this business, I wanted to dive more into the work that needed to be done to help these women. So my focus is not on, let me help you get a job. There are plenty of other transitional services to help them with that. Even the transition assistance program that, we all are required to attend as we leave the military. I believe that was created in 1991. Congress pushed that down to help military as they transition for education, employment, and health. But what about that identity? What about when you take that uniform off? What about that mental capacity, that cultural, that reintegration into the civilian world where, you move back home and all your friends that you had before you joined the military have moved on with their lives and they have families, and now you're back and you've traveled the world and you may not have anything in common with those folks. I was in a class through the VA, and there was a young lady on the phone, and she said, I sleep on my sofa. I don't hardly leave my house. I don't know what to do. And I saw her. I saw myself in her, and I told her I couldn't help myself. I said, I hear you and I see you. I said, because I went through that same thing. And I said, and I'm working on a business to help women like you. I said, because this reintegration into the civilian world, it's different. It's different. And so that's what Reclaim is. That's the coaching model that I have worked on to help them work on their values, their goals, their personal missions, and things like that, is to help them within themselves, because they can go find a job just like I did, and it may not be what they want to do, because they may have wanted to be a teacher before they joined the military. Now they're working medical in the military. So you have these two people basically inside that head.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I work with them to figure out how to merge those two identities together.
Yes. So you talked, extensively about House Apex LLC, and you talked a little bit about Reclaim. And I want us to unpack that just a little bit more, for our viewers, so, that they, have clarity. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're helping a lot of professionals through coaching with Reclaim. So can you talk about just a little bit about how one-on-one coaching through Reclaim, how that differs from the traditional transition programs, and what specific populations that you provide support to through your program?
Yes. So as I was saying earlier about the traditional transition programs, they are career centric. And so they focus on getting that resume together, that job placement, that skill translation, which is very important, right? You do most likely need a job. However, but they rarely address what the DAV 2014 and subsequent studies have shown, that there are deeper needs that the women veterans need. They need community. They need to talk things out. And so with Reclaim and that one-on-one coaching, right, it bridges that gap. So with Reclaim, I am building a community where women veterans can, as they're going through, have that community and talk amongst each other, right? Things that they found out about themselves, about their values, hard discussions that they've had to have with themselves. And it's about getting back to yourself.
That's good. That's good. Now, I know you also have a resource for viewers who are watching. You have a free resource. Yes. Tell us a little bit about that resource and how they can find that resource if they're interested.
Yeah, so the resource is like the hidden struggles that women may find when they leave the military. So it walks them through, and it walks through how to overcome those struggles, and just how they can reclaim their lives as they're going through, or possibly even avoid those struggles, right? Because they would have already have been privy to that information, right? Been privy to the scenarios. And I have a link, and I believe it's there on the screen, and it's going to be on my website, 5 struggles there. And please download it. And I hope it will be helpful to you as it has been to the other women that have received it. Also on my LinkedIn, and I post things right now. I've been posting scenarios of working in a civilian workplace that women veterans may find themselves in, like when they get ready to introduce themselves, they may say, I'm chief. I'm Colonel, versus, that's not you anymore in that setting. How to navigate that without losing that identity that you had in the military, but merging that together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, in a lot of our talks, you and I have talked about some of your volunteer efforts that you've been doing since you've been on leave leading up to your retirement later this month. So can you share a little bit of insight with our viewers, regarding some of the volunteer efforts that you have been, taking part in? So can you tell us a little bit more about your volunteer work?
Yes. So I have been volunteering at the Washington, D.C. VA, and an organization called Soldiers Angels. They are based out of San Antonio, but they do a lot of great things for active duty and veterans, including food distribution, even before the shutdown. So they do hospital visits, things like that. And at the hospital, I am doing administrative work where I'm stuffing envelopes and sending out appointment reminders. But that takes that work off of the actual workers so that they can focus in on the veterans, because as they have manning loss, that helps them be able to focus on the veterans and not have to do that administrative work. And hey, I may even show a veteran how to even get to physical therapy or something like that as I'm walking down the hall. And that brings me great joy. And it also brings them joy because they see that I'm a veteran and helping out another veteran. So if you have time, sign up to volunteer. It is great to be able to go to the hospital and visit the ones that are there, staying at the hospital and sick. They need visitors.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I was going to say that as well. For anyone who's watching, you're compelled to get involved. You're compelled to volunteer. We encourage you to do that, reach out. And if maybe the VA is not the entity that you want to volunteer through, find different communities that you can, different organizations that you can partner with in your community and around the world to make an impact. I think when we, all take an effort, to do something, it really makes a big difference. So thank you so much, Stacia, for all of the insight that you've shared today. Now, there may be some individuals who are watching who might want to connect with you. So if they want to keep in touch, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way would be LinkedIn is really good to reach me. Also, my Gmail account, if they want to do directly. And I'll get back to them because I look forward to speaking to them. Again, the main focus are military women. I am kind of looking into working. I also have a coaching certification in leadership coaching as well. But right now, the initial focus are the women, military women, and the veterans as they navigate through this new cultural integration.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stacia. It has been Such a joy to have you as the guest on Purpose today. You're very welcome. And I know you're going to go backstage. So thank you again. Thank you to all of the viewers who have watched today. This has just been such a joy to be able to have Stacia as the guest on Purpose today. I know there's so many amazing things that Stacia has shared today. If there's something that you've heard that's been helpful for you, I do encourage you, type it in the chat. Reach out to Stacia, connect with her. This has been a wonderful episode, just talking about the strategic power moves, mastering purposeful pivots in transitional times. Thank you again, Stacia, for being a guest on Purpose today. And thank you all for watching. If you want to reach out to Stacia, again, please do contact her. Her contact information is on the screen. Certainly, this has been great. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I encourage you to remain purposed today and every day. Again, if you're watching and you're someone who knows that you need to make a pivot professionally, you're not quite sure where to start, then you can send an email to admin@purposetoday.com. Thank you all to our viewers. If you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, we do encourage you to hit the subscription bell so that as new episodes are released, you can remain up to date on new episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing purpose-filled weekend.